Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Today we got one of my competitors, a guy I used to spar with back in my day in my little reign right there of rodeo, and Cesar De La Cruz. Cesar was a 9-time NFR qualifier in the Heeler. From 2006 to 2014 is where he never missed an NFR. He got to rope with some of the greats on the head side, some of them along the likes of Coulter Todd and the legendary Derek Begay that he made the NFR with. In his reign, had some really great heel horses back in this day. We'll talk about that a little bit and some of their names and how he named them. It was pretty cool. We'll talk about how he first got started in Tucson, what his child was like, and how he got started roping. We'll talk about his family pedigree of the guys that roped and the guys that was in the military, and then what rodeoing was like, what he learned, what he'd changed, and what he would tell his 18-year-old self. And now what he's doing now is he's changing people's lives. He has taken what God has given him, and now he's started America's Warriors Roping here in Casa Grande, Arizona. And Cesar, I'm proud of you, man, for what you're doing now. And
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, and I appreciate you, buddy. Just got done with your first annual American Heroes Roping.
Yes, sir. And Shane Wolford and I, he actually started at your roping clinic, and he come back, and it wasn't shortly, maybe a week after he come to my little. I have a little private clinic at my house. Usually get 3 headers and 3 healers come over and make it a fun little clinic, and then we have a little roping afterwards. They rope with each other. But anyway, Shane, after he got done with your roping, I says, man, you know what? Charlie's a good friend of mine, and I sure would like to do the same thing he's got going on over there. I watch videos. I got a lot of, rodeo buddies. They have a great time over there at your roping. Steers are fun, and the competition is great. And then you get to have the military guys spar with the top ropers. And that right there really, I think, pumps them up. Honestly, like it makes them feel like they're at the NFR. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a little jackpot and they get to rope with Junior Noguera. I mean, get your heart going for sure.
Absolutely.
And, man, I tell you what, the people over here in Casa Grande really supported us, and we had it rained and it was windy, but I tell you what, we had Eric Rogers, Trey Yates. We had a handful of really good ropers over here. My little buddy Michael Camelot and Pedro Agarola, and I tell everybody today, these guys were real warriors for being out here.
Yeah, it was.
And roping with us.
It didn't brace some suck today, that's for sure.
Man, I tell you what, the steers were fun to rope, and I wish the weather was nice because they had some really good cattle and the score was just right. And but in Arizona, if the weather's not just right, you see a lot of team ropers not show up because there's so many good days.
So many good days. Yeah.
They're just gonna be like, you know what, we're just gonna take a break today, and today is one of those days. But I'm looking forward to the future. Shane, he's pumped up about this. He loves roping. I love being around him, and he's wanting to have in the future, hopefully this 2024, we're hoping to have maybe a little amateur rodeo and have a big open roping and go all the way down to low number ropings. And my grandfather, he passed away last year. In his dying days, he was roping the dummy. And I
remember seeing that on social media.
He instilled that in us, and so I thought bring that back a little bit. When I was a kid, dummy ropings were pretty big, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to have the regular horns, and we're going to have the bales of hay. We're going to have it old school style.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and I had some antlers in there for the older kids. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to get a rope and try to beat my 11-year-old. He won it today, and that made my heart happy to see that, because I slowed down rodeo.
I think Grandpa Vic would have been smiling.
I really do too. It's just to see his grandbabies. I used to take him over there, and they used to rope the dummy with him, and his eyes used to light up. You know, and it's just for me putting on a roping for the Warriors too, or for the military. Sorry, we're trying to donate as much money as we can, and because I told the story a little while ago about in 2001, September 11th, that I was in school over here at Central Arizona College, and I seen the first responders, I seen military take action, and something that I couldn't imagine being a part of right there and seeing it firsthand. And I'm glad that we have people like that taking care of the United States, and then even in our community, the police officers and firefighters. We need those people. I've had to be around those people a little bit. When I was younger, had to meet a few police officers, but I found out, you know, if you're respectful to them, they'll be respectful to you too, and they'll treat you fair. And so like I really got, I love the military. I love the police officers, firefighters, and first responders. And so that's what we're trying to do, Shane and I. Like I said, this is hopefully not a pipe dream. Hopefully this takes off in the future.
You'll get to see it come to fruition for sure.
And the support, when you say, hey, we're wanting to help the military out, you see a lot of rodeo community,
see a lot of patriots
they want to sponsor and help you out. Yeah. And I feel like
you're giving them an avenue for that.
Yes, sir. And I feel like this is just a start.
Absolutely. Well, you've had a great career, and you know, when I was a young kid, I was a spin to win junkie. You know what I mean? I read every article on how you'd make the NFR. I remember Frank Graves, you know, when he first made the finals, like, how did he do it? How do you finally how do you crack out and make it, you know? And so I'm such a big fan. You know, I'm still a fan at heart. You know, I grew up being a fan, and, you know, now that I'm retired, I study all these guys, and I'm a fan now from the sidelines as well. And your story is really great. I studied on you this morning and was researching you and got to know more about you. And it was a very touching story on how you got started here in Tucson, what you went through, what gave you your motivation to be a team roper, and tell me about how you first got started.
Man, it all started over there in South Tucson, Arizona there. And my grandfather kind of showed me the love and of the game and mainly horses early on. And we actually got to break a little pony and stuff right there. And he showed me, put a bow saddle on it, ring snaffle, and then you introduce them that way and step them up that way. So I feel like I was really fortunate to grow up that way. But my grandfather tells me a story when he got back from the war, and he worked pretty good, and he was wanting to get his own place. So he worked pretty hard, and he finally got a place in South Tucson, got 4 acres. And I think it's 4.5 acres, and he's pretty proud of it. And he had a spot where he can go down to the wash and ride and work his horses. But slowly but surely, the town grew up around us. Next thing you know, the airport is right next door, and like I said, it just grew up all around us. We got apartments right next door. There was trailer houses, trailer park complex right next door as well. And then behind the arena, we had this little NFR setup. Kind of, the arena's pretty small, and so like that's where I got to do battle, but it was right behind a little Tejano bar, and so I got to see a lot of fights, and I got to listen to a lot of Mexican music, plenty of Mexican music throughout my life, and I just feel like it was a little bit tough growing up out there. Like I said, the town grew up around us, and my mom and dad, when I was a kid, they got a divorce. So my mom, there's certain times she was working 3 jobs. Shout out to Zenaida.
How old were you when that happened?
I was pretty young. I had to have been around 8 years old. I don't remember much about that time. I guess my mind maybe kind of forget about that kind of trauma that I had, because my dad really didn't come around a whole lot when I was a kid. And then
it was after that. He didn't.
Yeah, he not hardly at all. Like if you asked me if I seen him a room today, I wouldn't recognize his face or nothing. You know, I guess I was that young. But when my stepfather stepped in, it was I want to say around 10 years old, 11 years old. That extra income allowed, because I roped the dummy. My grandfather had goats and didn't have much. You know, we had at the most of what we had at the house was maybe 4 steers, a big lead steer, goats, and it's kind of how my house was set up over there. But we always had something to rope. And when my stepfather, Larry, come in the picture, thank you for everything he did. You know, because man, you know, where we grew up was the south side of Tucson. Like I said, the town grew up around us. And I would spend more time at school than I would at home. And so when I was at school, I was around some of the kids that didn't have what I had at home. They didn't have grandparents. They didn't have parents that loved them. So they were out there just running around, just being little shitheads, I call them, you know. But I don't think they knew any other way. They didn't have any, like I had ambitions and dreams too, because Uncle George ROC, he was made the NFR 4 times in the 80s, and he was an average champion. So my grandmother always had pictures and stuff like that on the wall. So every time I'd go in my grandmother's house, which we lived on the same property.
And then how many times did George make the finals?
He made the finals 4 times, and I believe in 80, 82, 83, he won the average with.
So he won the NFR average.
With Brad Smith.
Brad Smith.
Yep. And I feel like those pictures and stuff kind of inspired me, like if Uncle George could do it, maybe I could too. But man, back then it was just different. His setup was different. It was a dream, but I didn't really tell a whole lot of people because I felt like I'd get laughed at. I get to, go to some of these ropings and see some of these kids, they get to rope and they have all these nice horses and man, I didn't get to. I would have my little prairie rope. I didn't get to have a horse because we really couldn't afford one at the time. Like I said, when Larry stepped in, it was a game changer. He comes from a military family as well. His dad he drove trucks in Vietnam, military trucks, so I come from a big military family, and I know if my family seen me acting up and doing some shit that I was doing in school, which was, I told this story on a few podcasts, and man, I'm not proud of it. I get mad at myself for doing that kind of stuff, but I didn't know no better, My buddies said, hey, you want to make some money? I said, yeah, my buddies always, we're going to school, we're going to lunch. Man, these kids were pulling $100 bills out. These are teenagers, man. You know what I mean? They're just like, you guys got more money than my mom does. My mom works 3 jobs, I would tell them. You know what I mean? It's like, man. And so you want some of this? I said, man, what do I got to do? They said, you don't got to do hardly nothing. I tell you what you do. The kid had a stick shift, and I knew how to drive. He says, you just kind of be a lookout a little bit. And I said, what does lookout do? He says, you just make sure there's no cops around and nothing happens. And he says, let me hear you whistle. And I said, well, I whistle. It's pretty loud. He says, all right. And so he says, what we're going to do, we're going to ditch school class. We're going to go, you're going to drop us off pretty close to the airport. You're going to take a walk, and then you're going to load back up in this car, and you're going to drive back to the school, park at the same spot. We'll see you tomorrow. Sure as shit, man. See you tomorrow. The next day, and give me $150. And I didn't do hardly nothing. I said, what'd you guys do? It took me 30 seconds to walk up and down this block. And I kind of see a car pull out of this little lot. And he said, that was us. And to see a 13, 14-year-old kid break into a car, it takes 30 seconds to get him in there. And that's why they say don't put your ticket on the dash, or don't put the ticket, you know what I mean, where people can see it. They break in and steal the cars anyways. And some of them people they wouldn't report their car missing for 2 weeks, some of them people. And so that was, around my area, that was big, is stealing cars, because what they would do is they'd either load them up with, a lot of times load them up with money, and then take them across to Mexico, which is, I live on the south side of Tucson. It's an hour and 20 minutes to Mexico. So, or they would chop the cars up and, sell the parts, whatever. And like I said, it's a pretty good business if you don't mind going to jail. And I did.
If you don't mind the outcome.
Yeah, and I did. I was terrified of it, to be honest with you, just because just seeing cops, and I got to see fights all the time outside the little Tano bar. And believe it or not, the school that I went to, there was a murder before I went. Kid got shot cold blood just because of gang members, and he was wearing the wrong colors and shot right at the high school that I went to. And so when I went there, they were really trying to keep everything cleaned up and stuff. So you weren't allowed to wear solid colors or reds, blues. You had to be, and especially like there was shoelaces and like that. It was huge over there, like a bunch of little gang members running around everywhere. And MS-13 is a big gang. Like it's global.
Those guys are cold-blooded killers.
Yeah, man, and they recruit the young guys like that because if they get in trouble, they're going to go to juvenile. They're not going to get in too big of trouble. They're a few months and then you're out. You know what I'm saying? Then they're back to doing whatever they got to do. But then when you turn 18, it's big deal. It's, you know what I mean? And so, like I said, I'm not proud of what I did. And I as soon as I did it, I regretted it, and I had the money, and what I wanted to do was go to a roping, and went to the roping, and I won, and I just feel like it was just burning a hole in my pocket, so I got rid of it as fast as I could. About the time I was hanging out with Coulter Todd a lot and spending time with him, and I didn't tell him I ever did it. You know, like I feel like Coulter was the best guy I've ever been around, especially at that time. I needed a guy like that to let me know that you don't have to, you know, you don't have to drink, you don't have to smoke, you don't have to do anything. You just, like, the Lord will guide you wherever you need to go. And I was Catholic. I grew up Catholic when I was a kid, and you know, he told me about, he was a Christian. He says, this is how we do it over here. This, you know, throughout the meals, and went to church every Sunday, and you know, we might even go study a little bit in town. And like, man, I haven't been around that a whole lot, but we went to, felt like it was, you were almost getting punished when I was Catholic, and then if I made a mistake, you know, and so I felt bad whenever I do something bad. Like I said, when I went to that rope, and I was like, man, there's something I didn't do right, you know. And so when I got rid of that money, I felt better, and I felt like, okay, this is what I need to do. I'm trying to live right. This is what.
So when you got rid of that money, what did you do with it?
I tithed it. While I was spending time with Coulter, we went to church. I wrapped it up in a $1 bill with $150. It was a $100 bill, a $50 bill, and I wrapped it up with a $1 bill, and I tithed it, and I got rid of it as fast as I could. I felt like that was the best thing I could do with the money, is just get rid of it and help the church. And I actually, when I did it, I felt a lot better, and I felt like this is what I need to do. I need to, if I'm gonna, you know, how I had opportunities, but when I was a kid, the opportunities where you're gonna sell drugs, you're gonna do some kind of sports, you're gonna play football, baseball, whatever. I wasn't big enough to play football. I wasn't big enough to play basketball. You know, like this is what God blessed me with, horses and roping. I can do this. Uncle George showed me a path. I can do this if I set my mind right. And you know, Conor McGregor talks about you got to be consumed with this game, almost crazy to it. And I kind of just dedicated it to, every night, every chance I got, I would try to rope. Like, I'd go play Metallica. You know, I had a cassette tape back then that had Metallica, and I'd play a whole side of it and rope the dummy. That's about 45 minutes or so, right? Mm-hmm. And so I try to rope the dummy and throw big loops. That was the thing. I kind of on the west side of the United States over here, and I feel like the steers are a little bit framier, and the West Coast guys throw big heel loops over here. They use a little bit bigger loops and big heel loops. So I would try to work on that. You know, the Cody Cowdens, certain guys like that. You know, Big Meat, Kyle Lockett. Those guys were my heroes. They were making the finals quite a bit about that time, and so like, yeah, I wanted to throw a heel loop like that. And so I'd try to throw different heel loops like that. And then, you know, see a Steve Northcott show up, and I'm like, man, I want to heel like that guy. And so I try to pick out all my heroes that I grew up watching, and try to emulate their style. I feel like you can pick one or two things out of every one of your heroes, and try to emulate their style a little bit. Maybe pick one or two things out of it, and then you're going to develop your own style.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of how my whole style come about. Out here, there was guys that caught a lot of 2-footers when I roped. And so I grew up watching these ropings, man, they didn't miss. But some of them guys wouldn't throw very fast. Right. And I figured out, you know what, if I can get to where I threw a little faster, being a little more aggressive heeler, I could win more day monies, and maybe, you know, and then prepare myself for rodeo. That's kind of what I thought. And I had people go, you know, I roped with Sterling Smith in high school, and Brad Smith would get on me all the time about not throwing fast. All you got to do is just catch. But I wanted to run around there and throw fast, because I knew when I turned 18, I was going to leave that place. Charlie, I hated where I grew up over there. Just you know, my like I said, my parents getting divorced and little things like that. Like, I got to see fights. I got to see all this stuff. Like, I hated the school that I went to. Like, I wanted out of that place. Not so much my house was a sanctuary. My grandparents lived right there on the same property. My grandma Yolanda cooked the best Mexican food in the world, you know what I mean? So I was my sanctuary was right there in that 4.5 acres. But I don't know if you ever felt like when do you ever feel like when you traveled rodeo and you were kind of free just a little bit?
Yeah.
You're a free bird. You can go wherever you wanted to. You can go to West Coast, East Coast. You can go wherever you wanted to. I felt like them rodeo guys had that opportunity. So when I turned 18, when I graduated high school, I'm gone. I'm leaving this place, and maybe I could provide a better life, because there wasn't nothing there in South Tucson for me. Like if I want to change tires, or if I wanted to do something like that, I could do that. But if I wanted
passion would be great.
I had to do it right away. Yeah. And I feel like some of these kids that are growing up, maybe they think they could do it in their 20s, maybe they maybe later on, but no, you have to get on it as soon as you're 18, you're an adult. You have your whole life ahead of you. You can't be lazy. You have to get to work right away. What is your dream? What is your passion? You have to figure that out, and you have to go with it. Whatever it is. I don't think if you follow your dreams, so like say my dream was rodeoing, and if I didn't make the NFR, you can be a horseshoer, you can be a dentist, you can be chiropractor, you can be all kinds of these different. The horses provide you a better life, and I feel like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And rodeoing, I wish I'd have known a little bit more about the cutting and the Grand Cow horse, maybe a little bit more back then. It wasn't as big as it is now, but like I felt like rodeoing was where it's at. And like some of them guys would brag about in high school, like $1 million here and $1 million there, and I say, man, I'm gonna make $1 million roping.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I had that in my heart, and I actually got to reach that goal in my roping career. When I reached that, might have been my 9th year. I made the finals. I reached that mark, and man, it was a relief. I was like, man, talking back to that 18-year-old kid, just stay passionate. Just you gotta want it more than the next guy. There was a quote that I lived by when I was a kid. If you're not roping, somebody else is roping. When you two meet, they're gonna win.
Yeah.
And you've been around this game a lot. That's usually how it happens. The guys that are out there grinding and working at it the hardest usually wind up on top. They're out there finding their horses. They're out there working at it. Especially now, you especially come and I come in an era where we need to make some runs and consistency, and it seems like that's not the case nowadays. These guys are taking 3-point shots. I watch basketball just a little bit, but I seen how Steph Curry changed the game a lot, and like it evolved where these guys can shoot it from wherever, and I'm seeing that with the roping too, man. These guys, well, you know how like Steph Curry changed the game. These guys are shooting 3-point shots, like, you know what I mean? Headers and heelers can just take their shot at any time that they want to. A guy like Tyler Wade can throw it over the chute, or he can go 1 or 2 more strides down the ring and take it. Down heelers, they're riding the horses so good, they're riding to the end of it and firing it down there. And there's so many heelers that can do it as good as they get. And now the heelers are separated between how many heel horses they got. Yeah. Like a heeler like Paulie's, I've been watching him a lot. I followed his career real closely. I used to give him rides to a few of the rodeos, and I watched him from a poor kid that had just one horse that he did the best he could on, and he won a lot on, and he moved that one to another one, and now he's got, I'm not kidding you, Charlie, he's probably got 10 horses in his stalls over there.
His arsenal is
that are number ones. Yeah, like absolutely. Not number twos. Like I'm talking about some of the best horses in the country, and so I just feel like that's changing the game a lot. Like the headers are getting these really really nice horses and well-bred horses, and it's just changing the game. And like I said, when I was just a kid, I fell in love with the horses, and I didn't know about bloodlines as much. When the first horse I had, he didn't have any papers. He come from Mexico. So now that I'm 40 and I've been following this horse show these futurities a little bit more, and man, to see the bloodlines, there's
It's starting to evolve. The horses now, I think, is going to really evolve and change the game of rodeo, I think.
Well, I've been around the game just enough where you see, like, like Russell Cordoza, for example. I spent some time with him just the other day, roping with him, and he had some really good horses when he was a kid. He had a little chestnut mare, and then now he told me I think this is maybe the third generation mare, a little filly that he's got at the house that he's going on, and she's beautiful and she works really good, works like her mama. I'm like, man, there's something to this bloodline. There's something to the studs, the mares. If you can breed you can breed a number one stud that's done really good and bred a number one mare that's done a lot of good. The chances of you getting a really nice horse are pretty high.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's different when it comes to racing them and cutting them and stuff, but cutting on them and stuff. But when you're roping on them, pretty sure that you can. Like, I got one myself right now. She feels a lot like her mama, and it's like, man, I'm gonna try to really study it more and try to, Joseph Harrison and Dakota Kirchschlager, and I've been spending a lot of time with them guys, and it's like takes a lot of work to get them at that level, but to see them work like that, how pretty they work and proper,
sexy.
It's so cool, man. That just makes me just. I'm a fan of it. So like now I'm like, I want to do that just like I did when I was rodeoing.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I was like all these Steve Northcotts and Corey Kuntzes and all these guys, and now I'm Dakota. I'm older than Dakota, but I follow him around, and I kind of study him and man, I want to ride like that. But he's 6'1" and he's got long arms, long legs, so I got to put a little bit different. Joseph is a little more my size, but I'm trying to put different styles in one. But man, where do you think that thing is going to go in the future, Charlie? Because I love roping, and the guys are roping so good. The young guys are riding them so good. It's like, man, we just see it a 3-1 at the NFR, and I don't think that's too far-fetched to see it again.
No, and I think the rope horse fraternities, I think it's going to do a lot for the industry. I think it's going to start. What I'm starting to see now is I'm starting to see some of the best ropers in the world starting to learn a lot more about horsemanship.
Yes, sir.
A lot of these guys are getting involved with the rope horse fraternities, learning more about them, learning how to train them. Driggers is involved now pretty heavily. He's even got his own fraternity going on now. I think you're going to start seeing more ropers learning more about horsemanship, and I think that is a win in all realms. And I also think, too, it's going to help promote more horses available for the public, because there's a mainstream of horses now, and like Trevor and Miles, they got a assembly line going on over there producing these horses. Because when I was rodeoing, it didn't seem like there's just a few guys making them. Well, I think now with the fraternities, there's going to be more trainers, more horses getting made, and so because there's more ropers than there are horse trainers.
Right.
And so I think that's going to help. I'm really concerned. I'm really curious to see like where the bloodlines are going to go from here. Right. In the barrel racing, they've kind of got it figured out. That Dash to Fame, with the Frenchman's Guy. There's certain breedings in the barrel racing right now that's gotten pretty hot, and produce good barrel horses. I'm curious to see where those bloodlines are going to go. What's the bloodline you think is going to go like in the heeling? I wonder where the bloodlines are going to go in the heading, to where those horses right there, like that's their niche. So I think it's exciting to see where that goes. And to me, when you start getting better head horses made where they're scoring flatter and better and, better corners, and then being able to face because they're standing up right there in the corner, to me that produces faster times. And then you start getting guys that learn how to ride that horse better and can rope. Yeah, it's going to get fast.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Like I was a rodeo guy, and it's them horses. Rodeo horses have to be machines. They cannot mess up. And the best horses in the world, it seems like they don't. They work so good. 95% of the time, they're going to work how you ride them. Yeah. They're going to make very few mistakes. And to be honest with you, I wasn't the best rider, and I'm learning. And it's taken me a little bit longer. I get frustrated at it, but working on my horsemanship as much as possible. I think I got mad at the horse because I didn't know how to move their feet proper.
Ian Francis has one of the best things I've ever heard. He said, "Anger begins where knowledge ends."
Exactly.
And I would say that defined my 20s to a T.
Man, if I could have told myself, do you need to go spend some time with these cow horse guys and these cutters and learn how to, you're good with your rope. Your right hand is fine. You need to get better with your left hand and get good. I feel you preach a lot about head and about the left hand. I feel like the healing's a lot in your legs. The balance you ride, you can make your horse bend his body and maneuver his body so well with your legs if you can ride him the right way.
And Chris Cox talked to me a lot too about what really reminds me a lot in the heeling is being able to ride a horse from the back to the front.
Yeah.
where you're driving that driving train under you and shoving them shoulders up.
It wasn't ever that. It was, hey, catch the steer by 2 feet.
And you almost learn to ride the horse from the front to the back, just trying to catch, because you're crawling out over the top of them, letting them flatten out, then you can't get dallied.
Throw over their necks and just throw underneath their necks, when all I had to do was just ride them a little bit better.
That's where I think team roping's starting to evolve, because the horsemanship is starting to get a lot bigger.
The times are getting so fast, and I went to...
The horses are getting better.
Went to a 9 rope with my little boys the other day, and a short 17 was the cutoff, and a 9 roping, to see some low number guys put a pair of 8s together, or an 8 and a 9 together, that's pretty good.
It's impressive.
And my little boys didn't make the cut. I'm like, man, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
My little boy made the cut with one of his partners. He was 16 on 2, and he was 28th callback. And like they made 2 pretty decent runs. You know what I mean? They're short 8s.
Yeah,
it's pretty good for an 11-year-old and a guy that he was an older guy healing for him. It's like, man, that's pretty good for those guys. But I tell you what, the game is evolving, and I think you're right. The horsemanship, the horses, it's just getting better. There used to be just a handful of really good heel horses and really good head horses, and now you see a whole pile of them. Like I talked about Paul Leaves just a little while ago. How many head horses does Jiggers have in his lineup? Exactly. And these guys are willing to go out there and get them. To Clint Summers did really good on a head horse at the NFR this year. Transmissions is his name, and I've seen that horse go. Wes Adams had a heck of a deal going over there in Texas and Dublin at one point, the Millionaire Ranch, and he raised Transmission, and he raised Rooster. Patrick Smith owns Rooster right now, the Stallion, and those are out of Hollywood, done it.
And then Diesel wasn't a good product.
That's what
out of there too.
It's really cool how when I got to hanging out with those guys a little bit later on, Rannon actually helped me get Simmer on a couple of. I need to give Rannon a little more credit for my rodeo career, because he was one of those guys that had a pile of heel horses over there and a pile of head horses over there. And he would let his buddies ride them. You know what I mean? As long as they took good care of them and made them look right, he would let you take them. And
some good horses came out of there.
I'm telling you what, I'm learning a little bit later on in life. This is how it needs to go. But I got 3 little boys. Camilo's 13, Gio's 11, and Zorro's 8. And they like rodeo and they like doing this stuff. So, I need to make sure that they're well mounted, because I think the future of rodeo, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah. So you've had some good heel horses in the past. Now, tell me some of their names, because I remember, you was a Western fan. You was a fan of Westerns and Western characters. So what was some of them good heel horses? What were their names, and why'd you name them that?
Coming from the city, and I got that way when I was hanging out with Coulter, and he'd watch a lot of Westerns.
Yeah, I apologize, fans. Yeah. We both got a tick of a cough going on right here that we're trying to get over, so we apologize.
We would watch a lot of Westerns and stuff around the house over there. And so I was always a fan of Tombstone, for sure, from being in Arizona. And I always liked Johnny Ringo. He was a little outlaw. I named him that because...
And that was your little bay with Johnny Ringo,
little right? Bay. So I started my career off with him and made my first couple.
Now, was that the one from Mexico?
No, sir. That one come from... He was raised in Tucson. He was a Docalina and Two-Eyed Jack bred horse.
Okay.
And he was a paint. He had blue papers, believe it or not. Solid bay.
I did not know
that. But he was a paint. And that's kind of why I couldn't nominate him for Heel Horse of the Year. But
gotcha.
I think he would have been in the runnings a few times.
Yeah, he would have.
He was really cool. He was I didn't know how to train him that way. I ain't going to say that I trained him, but he was just a butt-dragging little horse. And he got his name because he was kind of a little bit of an outlaw when I first got him. He would rear over the heel box. I went to a rope one time, and right right before I bought him, the horse was rearing over the heel box. And I got him bought right.
Yeah.
I got him about cheap. So that's how it all started. And I thought, man, he was, and all it took was just scoring some steers on him. And I took him to Uncle George's house because Uncle George started him.
Gotcha.
And he didn't last very long. George roped for about a month on him, and he sold pretty fast. But he said, "Oh, bring him back over here. And I was going to college at the time at Central Arizona College, and he said, bring him over here, and I'm gonna ride 5 or 6 head horses, and you just stay on that one horse.
Yeah.
And we're going to rope walkers and trotters all day. We're not going to rope anything that lopes."
Calm back down.
Yeah, one day.
You know what's funny about that, too, is you talk about that with Johnny Ringo. I did a podcast the other day with Corey Kuntz, and he was talking about when he tried Jackal. He came back on Jackal in the short round. He said it was funny. He said, just for a short time. But he said Jackal would wear the boxer in the short round. He said then after a while, I think he kind of,
figured it out,
tapered it out. Then after a while, he figured it out.
That heel horse and Johnny Ringo have a little bit military. They're Navy SEALs. They are the elite, or Army Ranger, however you want. They are the elite of the.
They were warriors.
They're warriors, man. Yeah. They loved it.
They were tough, and they could take the hauling. They were tough, and they worked, and they just grind.
Johnny Ringo, he's 28 now. He's still alive, and my little boy, we retired him last year, but he won a saddle on him. Won the all-around. My cool. 8-year-old won an all-around saddle on him before we retired him. His knees are getting big, and he still wants to go in his heart and his mind, but his body won't let him no more.
I hear you. I understand.
But
I'm just trying to get there myself.
Yeah. And then I had Cimarron. I had a lot of success on that little heel horse, the little sorrel heel horse. Colin Von Ong started him. Brandon Adams bought him. Brandon Adams had him at the house. That was at the time that Brandon was riding Diesel, and Diesel was a hard running, hard stopping. He was a freak, 4-time world champion heel horse, just a straight animal. And this Cimarron, he didn't have much run, but he had a lot of cow.
Yeah.
Brandon liked riding up and around them steers. This horse, he had to ride real close to the cow. He had to get him locked on, or else he'd run by just a little bit. And Brandon he just wasn't a fan of him. So he said, you can take that horse if you want to and pay him off, whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Didn't you have one called Annie Oakley?
Yep. Little Miss Sure Shot, I called her, because I did a lot of good on her in the outdoor stuff. She felt like, to me, at the time I had Johnny Ringo for the short score stuff, so I could ride her at the jackpots. I needed something that had a little more run, pretty tough. And believe it or not, she's a smart little Lena bred mare, but I was healing on her about this time of the year, and she was just turned. I mean, she's not really 4, but she you call 4 after January 1st, right?
Right.
So she would just be 4, and I would be taking her to open ropens and winning on her, and like she was. Yeah. I wore her legs out pretty fast by doing that, but she was a really cool mare, and I had Duke, and you didn't see Duke very much because same thing. He's a little bit wild, and you take him to the jackpots, and they had like big lot of music, a lot of seemed like a lot of fans or whatever. So I practiced on him a lot, and kind of rode him around the house here. But he was really cool, and I had Captain. Yeah. I had a lot of horses, but it's just
takes that to make a career.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of for a lot of young kids coming up. I mean, without them horses, you can rope as good as you want, but you've got to have someone that produces you right there with the shots that create money.
I can't agree with you more. Try to get around some people that are knowledgeable about the bloodlines and stuff like that, and are riding them and training them. And even if you got to go out there and clean pens for these people and saddle up horses, and
you're working
it's a
for
lot
knowledge.
Of work.
You're working
exactly, because when you're my age, you're going to be able to take that knowledge and
it's worth money.
Run with it. Because I talked about like horses give you that out to, man, I don't want to work for a corporation, as far as like, I don't want to be in a building. I don't want to be in a little box and having to be on this computer. I want to be outside. That's the kind of person I am. Yeah. And so horses give me that outlet to have a future. And like, I stepped away from rodeo. It's been about 3 years now. I sold a buckskin horse I called Lucky Luciano. I called him Lucky more than anything, Lucky Bucky. But when I sold him, I sold a little sorrel horse too about the same time.
Now, where did that horse go?
Junior Nogata bought him.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and he didn't work as good as, I feel like he's kind of got a little bit sore toward the end of the year. It's kind of how all them horses were. Yeah. And he took him to the finals. Maybe he'd work, but he didn't work as good as he needed to. But that horse is so fast. He's unbelievably fast, and I thought that was his secret to success, or for my success.
And that's one thing that definitely has to happen, I think, for a lot of people don't understand too, is like the NFR, they need to be a little fast, because that start, for one, happens extremely fast. And another thing is too, it's so hard, I think, for a healer, is you've got to outrun the rope. It's real easy right there for the header, because the start's pretty short and the start happens. But if you hit the start right there, the shot's pretty easy, because you can use your rope right there to get the steer. But then you've got to, it's all within, sometimes 10 feet of the box right there, where you've got to read the knot and then somehow get around that sucker right there and outrun the rope. It's tough. So if you don't have something right there that doesn't run, it's a tough it can be a tough 10 days.
Takes a special horse for sure. Almost, you want one halfway's running off, controlled runoff over there at the NFR.
Mm-hmm.
You want him blasting out of the back of the box, but at the same time, like, you got to be able to throttle right there if the steer happens to check up, and you don't want one going left over there.
Yeah.
And then you have
I
to
never liked that. I wasn't very good when it did that.
Especially you have to be all the way in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't.
Yeah, 'cause you can't shove them too. You can't get too good of a start, then you shove them left.
It's straight lines, because when the header hits the barrier, he's in his delivery. So if you change at all in the delivery, so if the steer steps to the right a little bit, or even a little bit to the left, it changes the angles of the head rope.
Yep.
And so, like, people, I get frustrated at people watching the NFR and
How the Monday morning quarterback. Oh, how do you miss it, man? You really ought to try that.
I'm telling you, and then try to get some 550-pound M brands that are fresh. And
they're
like,
men steers.
I'm telling
they're
you,
adults
this is
only.
the real deal type steers. And people think that they look so good and they're not running as fast, but it's on TV.
You can't express how real it is there.
It's like, it happens so fast, and it's so loud, and like, it's so intense in the Thomas and Mack. Like, your adrenaline is going just walking in the building.
Yeah.
If you're a fan, like, I've been in there in the stands watching it before, like, your adrenaline's going just walking in the building.
Absolutely.
And then, like, when you're down at the bottom and you hear the announcer going and the music going, and your buddies that you've been battling it out with all year long just blasted 1 at 3.8, and we're like, hey, I want to be 3.7 now. You know what I mean? Like, that's the competitors we are out there. And like I said, it's that building is something else. I would like to go back to the finals, but I got 3 gold buckles at the house for my wife, Arena. Bless her. She does so much for the family and takes care of us so good. I couldn't have done it without her, but like, I just don't want to be gone from them for so long.
Absolutely.
Like, I was explaining to somebody, like, when I go rodeo, a lot's in Texas right now at the start of the year, January. We're in January, so I'm gonna be gone a lot. I'm gonna be gone for a month or two, and then I'm gonna be back for a week or two. Then it's time to go leave again, and that's kind of how it is over here living in Arizona.
Yeah,
I'm gone for about 9 months out of the year, and then the 3 months that I'm out here and stuff, I'm jackpotting, and I'm not really present. And so I felt bad for my kids, because that's really what I wanted, is my stepdad stepped in. He showed me what it's like to have a man be present.
Right. And that's a big part, I think, for a lot of guys that don't understand too. I mean, young kids is tough because, like, they say that the dad's role has a lot to do with where those kids turn out. They say a lot of times, without that father presence, the chance of that kid being in prison, especially a boy, is very, very high. And I thought, man, that was one of the things I was really proud of you too, is like, when you went through that stuff, and one of the things I bet Grandpa Vic's pretty proud about too is, he stepped in and did fill a lot of those roles right there.
It was huge.
That probably did keep you out of going that. So now when you're in that father role, I can see in your eyes, like when you're watching the kids rope, and you can tell, like, you ain't missing that. That's a man. And that's a man's role right there. It's pretty cool to see.
Like I said, Coulter, when we quit rodeo, we were making the finals consistently, and he left heading at the top of his game in 2008 to go spend time with his family. And I didn't question it, because I knew that we talked about that as kids, like, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
He would preach that, he talked different than most kids when we were that age. He wasn't, he was driven at that age,
He had a creed, and he had a being a Christian is one thing, but then, like, when you're true to it,
he lives it.
He lives it. Like, every time I was around him, he was such a cool cat in the fact of, he knew what he stood for.
Right.
He knew who he was. He was very well grounded. He was very extremely humble, but you weren't going to waver him.
No.
And another guy that came out too that was just ahead of his time on the head, and God dang, when he come out there, I was like, where did this dude come from?
That was about the time.
And then one of the greatest guys in the world to be around. I was like, man, he's got some longevity out here. And then the most impressive thing was, time to be a dad.
Man, I took that a lot from him, and, like, I felt like my oldest boy, Camilo, I didn't spend enough time because I was trying to live my dream. And when COVID hit, I was in Houston, Texas, getting ready to rope at the rodeo, I'm in the next set of guys, ready to go. I'm parked. I got my plug in. Got my horses in free stalls. I'm fixing to have me one of them free cheeseburgers they make over there. They got a refrigerator full of food and drinks, and it's the best rodeo in the world.
Yeah.
And I just cannot wait to get this year started. I actually had, at that time, I was in the top 10 in the world, ready to go, heel some steers and try to make this finals again. And they sent me home.
Yeah.
They said, we're not having the rodeo. You need to get back to your loved ones, is what they said. And so I took it to heart. I went back home, and I got to see what I was missing.
Yeah.
And it hurt me, but at that time, I was like, you know what? I mean, might as well start now. Be home more, and like every time I would leave to go rodeo, it was the first time in my life where I wanted to be home. Like I left, and when I was 18, and I wanted to leave, and I didn't want to come back home. Like my mom.
When I was a young kid, my motto was, "I'm roping my way out of Canby, Oregon."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm getting out of this place, and I can use
sound
my
like
rope.
you was the same way.
Yes, we can use what God give us to get out, to do whatever we wanted to. Like, you know, like what my Uncle George says back in the day, you got the world by the balls, son. What do you want to do? And like, I want to rope.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes, especially nowadays, if you want to be the best roper, you better get to work. It's these guys. I watch Caleb Driggers and Junior Nogueira. They practice. They work at it every day. They practice. They rope the dummies. They grind out. They're gonna rope the sleds. They're gonna rope cattle, and they're gonna do it all over again.
Every angle of it.
They're watching
from the horses to the rope and all of it.
If you're not consumed like that guy, just those guys, a little bit crazy to it. When you meet these guys at the ropings, who do you think is gonna win? It's those guys every time, and like they prove it day in and day out. They're one of the best teams in the world. But there's guys that like Tyler Wade and Wesley Thorpe. I'm really proud of those guys this year. They did really, really good. And T. Wade.
When that team started, I really did think there was a great dynamic right there. Yeah. You know, I actually really thought too that like Snow and Jade, I thought that was going to be a good split, like how they ended up going together. But like T. Wade and Thorpe, that did make a lot of sense because T. Wade's going to be able to do what he does, and Thorpe can throw fast or he can clean up. He's a very dynamic healer, and
he's changing a lot too.
It worked this year.
He's got a tight, fast heel loop, and T Wade's going to reach a little bit. So as a team, he's going to keep the rope tight and keep the faced. You know, it's a great mix, and they're great friends. And I think there's some kind of chemistry. You've roped.
You could really see it.
You've had a great career rodeo, and you know that the guys you had the best chemistry with, almost a good friendship with, you did a little bit better with sometimes. You know what I mean? Seems like
I tell you who I thought you had a really good chemistry too with also was Derek Begay.
Man, I tell you what, Derek is, and also like been fortunate and blessed in my career to rope with really good guys, and Derek is another guy that grounded. He knows what he stands for, and knows what he wants to do, and man, what a great guy. My favorite story from Begay, I've told this a few times, it's not so much our rodeo. We won so many cool rodeos. We won Cheyenne, we won Pendleton twice. We won all the big major rodeos, and man, my favorite time with Begay was going and cowboying with him, catching cows with him, and outside of Globe, he called me up. I wanted to go catch cows with him. He said, meet me over there. There's a little fairgrounds up there in Globe, and man, San Juan, is right outside of Globe there. Anyways, he said, pull in over there, and I'll see you at daylight. And man, he showed up, knocked on my door about 3:30. Said, we're burning daylight. It's still dark outside. So we got our horses saddled up and we went out and cruised the mountains. They've already scouted the hill that we're gonna go catch these cows at. And at the time they were mean, man. I don't know if people know the Maverick bulls. They get pretty feisty. They get pretty on the fight, and they travel and they'll run a little bit. Once they kind of get tired, they'll come back at you. They'll come back and get you. And Ty Romo and Raleigh Ben, AJ Ben, all the Ben boys were out there, and we caught. I think we got 15 bulls that day, and I took Chance Keeney out there with me, and it was a great experience for both of us, man. It was like, listen, that was really cool. We about died a couple times.
Cowboy stuff right here now.
Like a big old bull. Yeah. I took a little cut and reject that kind of wanted to be a little bit of a runoff and be a little flighty anyways. And I took him over there, And by golly, I was glad he wanted to run off a little bit, because there was times that he was getting the bulls on his tail, trying to hook his tail, and he took off and went. And it actually made him a lot better horse. Like I said, I tied down, or I didn't tie him down. Derek's one tied him down. He chased me around for a little while, and I finally got him roped. And I'm at one end. I'm kind of a little bit on a longer rope, and I'm wondering what I'm going to do with this thing. This bull's bigger than my horse. My horse can't be but 900 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a little bitty guy, you know what I mean? And surely, Derek's, just come around the hill, just up over the hill at the right time. I was like, dude, I'm so glad to see you. I didn't know what I was going to do with this thing. Yeah. And like, he come around there and healed him. We laid him down. He tied him up. He said, let's go. I said, what do you mean, let's go? We got more bulls to rope. So we went out there and we caught some more bulls, man. Like I said, we had them all. We had that one tied down because he's right there on the road. And then they timed the trees over there.
Yeah.
Timed to anything. They timed to a rock if you can.
Mm-hmm. And then go get another one.
Yep. And then
I always tell everybody too, like, I was a wannabe cowboy. People call us cowboys, but I mean, for me, I'm a roper. I'm a roper, but I grew up, I was very, very, being a cowboy was very romantic to me. Being out there on your horse and watching the sun come up and watching the sunset and getting to go cowboy. I just got an opportunity to do that a few times. Like I got to go when my dad always took me branding, and that was some of the best memories I ever had, sorting the calves off, getting a brand, chewing some Levi Garrett, and, Stewie, Jason Stewart, he used to invite me out there every spring. I'd come out there and help him brand and stuff. But I mean, I wasn't a cowboy. I enjoyed being cowboy. I was a roper. But like cowboys, for people that don't realize, like these are the guys that feed America. These are the guys that do some cowboy shit. I mean, there's chances of a lot of them dying daily in the fact of what they do. And like a lot of arena cowboys have no idea how cowboy these sumbitches are. And that Begay is one of them.
That's what he told me when we went out there. Hey, pay attention. We're a long ways from a main road. We were up and down the dirt road, nasty dirt roads. And when we went out there cowboying, there was one trail that we had to get on. It's shell rock. I mean, it drops down about 80 feet down to the bottom of this little canyon that we're going. We're just riding on the riding on the side of a mountain. What we're doing, little canyon. And he told me, if you're gonna fall toward the mountain. Your horse starts slipping, you let him go. You fall toward the mountain. We'll figure it out later. I'm glad my horse was sure-footed, the little cutting horses. I shouldn't have took him, you know what I mean? But
those corporate offices you were talking about, I don't think that's in the job description when it comes to be a cowboy.
No, and
that's
like
real stuff right there.
And like Begay does this all the time. And
Yeah.
the reason why we quit roping, it wasn't like we didn't have the best year in 2013, but we did make the finals. We kind of had a late. And Begay, man, he's a gamer. Come September time, he wins a lot.
Turn it on.
He always does. Every year he does good in September. But I just feel like Begay, that cowboy spirit that he's got, helps him when he ropes. He like can channel that. When he ropes some cows out in the pasture, he does the same thing. It's like I can't miss. I have to catch.
Right.
And that was the thing about his style, man. Like, you can plan on getting, especially if it come down to like you guys we needed to win, or like we're going to go home, we're getting broke. This guy was going to turn steers left and right because like, I think he got that from cowboying out there.
I tell you another thing too, I always recognize about Begay is he's very articulate. He's very, very, like I would think in, the Navajo Nation, like to me, he would remind me of somebody that was like a wise man.
Very much.
He didn't say anything, but when he did, like, there was some thought behind there, very, very in-depth. He's a real sharp fella right there, but, like, he would remind me of somebody that's like a wise man.
It's funny you say that, because when you get him out in the pasture, he's pretty freaking wild. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's hollering and screaming, but, man, this guy does some wild things, man. Yeah. Like, he can do some
things that he's done.
Out
And I watch some things he does on Instagram, like the pictures he'll take and some of the things that he'll say, like he is a sharp, he's a fascinating guy. How cool was it this year to be able to see some of your two greatest buddies and some of your two greatest partners team up and win the NFR average and just have a stellar year? And Coulter was one of the, like I say, he was one of the headers. It was about ahead of his time, retires in the peak of his career to go be a man, go be a father, and then comes back healing.
A lot of people don't. He don't give me credit for it, but back when we were teenagers, I turned him a lot of cattle back in the day. We'd switch ends and stuff and rope goats, and man, part of my style was because of him, man. Like, that guy didn't miss a whole lot. If I wanted to beat Coulter and the Goats or Leadster or whatever, I had to throw faster than he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to see them guys at the finals was awesome. And we talk about chemistry a little bit before, but Coulter and Derek, they go cowboy and they catch wild cows. You know, Derek can go to the ranch in Wilcox and help Coulter brand, do little things like that. Derek is Uncle Derek to Coulter's kids. You know what I mean? He spends that much time with them over there, and to have that friendship and that connection was the same thing me and Coulter had to get us through the finals. And there was times where he, you know, I know he was struggling, Coulter, a little bit this year, and then bam, he'd win big. You know, like because Coulter's the kind of guy, if he can't put food on the table and like provide a little bit, he's going to come back to the ranch and take care of his family the way he knows how to.
Yep.
And so, you know, he'd win just a little bit here and there. And to see him get to the finals. And then to me, like, I think Coulter, back when we were kids, was really one of the most consistent kids around here growing up. And like I said, he was relentless, man. That guy was working at it all the time, and he'd throw loops and he'd ride horses and train horses his whole life, you know. And so to see him cowboy up at the finals, especially I think in round 9 right there, do you notice how both those guys knew he hickeyed the horn, and Derek, that he knew how to get to the left side of it.
He was at the right place at the right time.
Coulter knew how to turn that steer back the right time. He flicked that rope off right at the right time.
I did see that.
The average roper would threw his head up and
got in the way and got wrapped up.
Telling you, like, there's some cowboy.
Those guys have been in the Brandon pen before, and they've ran wild stuff. That I totally agree, and I did see that. I was like, I promise you, that was where Cowboy popped out in him right there.
There was one steer, I think in round 4, maybe Coulter had a steer that about jumped out of the dang arena. He was doing that. He was taking a big old long empty.
That was a hard shot.
Yeah,
real hard shot.
And like the average guy would have hopped right over his heel loop, but Coulter, I know he got a leg out of it, man, to get something.
But to get that leg was phenomenal, because that was Brandon.
I brought up the two worst rounds at their finals, you know what I mean? But those were kind of cowboy shots right there. Yeah, they take them steers out. That just takes.
That doesn't win the average.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. The cowboy and their cowboy and true code right there is what helped them win the NFR average title.
Their friendship too, man. They're pretty tight.
Yeah,
they're pretty. They were stayed together during the finals. They went and had dinner. Their families spent time together. So I felt like that was going to be a good team, because you've been in the finals before, man, and a couple rounds don't go just your way. And there was a couple rounds where it didn't go their way either, but they you know what I mean? It's all right.
The run came back.
It's all right. You know, at the end, after we get out of the tunnel here, we get to the trailers. You're Derek, I'm Coulter, we're friends. You know what I mean?
They're both very level.
Yeah.
Both anyway. Yeah. But I know one thing, like the whole country, the whole Western industry, all the cowboys and the ropers, their fan base was probably higher as any fan base that I'd seen. I know the whole industry was rooting for them.
Yeah.
Because they're true cowboys. They're great guys. The story was amazing, just Coulter coming back.
Yeah.
The fact they're great friends, and it was just a great story. It was so cool.
Be on the lookout for his little boys in the future. They're consumed with it. They want to do it, and I'm glad he came back at that time, because you know,
kids see it.
He's Uncle Coulter to my kids too.
Yeah.
And for the kids to see a guy like that he can do this. He come back. You know, and he's a family man, but he went out there and rodeoed. He made the finals. You know, I think that's cool that the kids can see that, and then he's real family oriented too. This Western industries, especially the way the world's going to now, I think people are drawn to the Western industry just for that. I mean,
well, it's one of the last industries too, I think, where we every rodeo we go to, we thank God. You know, we pray before every rodeo. Everybody stands up here for the national anthem and take their hat off. They face the flag. You know, if you're kneeling here, you're crippled. And if you kneel in here, you're going to be crippled if you're not.
And they're going to want to stand. They're going to.
We're a patriotic industry, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact, because we do pray. You know, that God is still present in what we do. And you're right. It's tough when it looks on what the outside world is.
What those two guys bring to the game is huge and amazing. I like watching them rope. I love healing for them and being around them and learning their personalities and stuff, because there's so many unique personalities in the rodeo trail.
Absolutely.
You can see different aspects and walks of life. Like me and Coulter were polar different how we grew up. Like I grew up in the city, gangs, because when I went to school, I wasn't gonna wear cowboy boots and stuff like that, man. I just didn't want to get picked on. I just didn't want to draw any attention. So I was baggy jeans and gold chains, and I would steal a gold chain from my mom, you know what I mean, and go wear it, to school. And my grandma would take me love my grandma to death, if she wasn't there to take me to school and pick me up from school. If I had one of my shithead buddies take me home or ride the bus, I would have gotten a lot of trouble. But like to see that I'm over here, this aspect, and feel like I'm a little bit lost, and Coulter knows exactly what he wants to do in his life at 12 years old, 13 years old, that he's going to make the NFR, and this is what he's going to do.
Yeah, great family upbringing, and put God first in everything, and you can see it how he lives his life and how he carries himself. And so, your family, dynamic, you had a lot of NFR guys in your family. Victor made the NFR, Uncle George and Uncle Vic, Victor both made it. But tell me about your military family dynamic.
My military background is my grandpa was in the Navy, and he was in World War II.
That was Grandpa Vic. Right?
Grandpa Vic, yep. And like I said, he's my hero, and he brought a little bit of the hard work side of the military, more training horses or whatever. We're going to do this right. You're going to do it the right way. We're not doing it at all. Practicing, we're going to do it the right way. And like I'm thankful for him and his military background, bringing it back to us. And then 9 family members, big family. He had 6 sisters, 9 brothers. All were in the military. Uncle Art, and they all come back home too. Uncle Art was a Purple Heart recipient twice. He was wounded in battle twice. He was shot, gunshot wounds, and so Uncle Art was a little different, and he had that look, some of the military guys look that. Yeah, he had that stare a little bit.
Stare.
Yeah. So, but I'm really thankful, and sorry, my stepdad. I consider him my dad, because he raised me.
Stepped up and.
Yeah, he really did. 4 kids. He stepped up, and my mom had 4 kids, and he stepped up. But Grandpa Larry served in Vietnam, and he drove trucks, and so. Like I said, the way I was raised was the right way, and I wasn't going to go astray with all the uncles and the military background I had, because I had all that support, and some of the kids that I was around, they didn't have that kind of support, or didn't even have that kind of background. They didn't know the right way to act or be, and when I was around those kind of kids and stuff, I knew that I was acting up. I was messing up. I shouldn't be doing that. And so,
Grandpa Vic and your stepdad sound like it was that voice in your head to where it kept you leaning towards a path that created you where you were today. And almost without them, then it's hard to say where your path was going.
Man, I hate to think about that, because there was a time, like I said, I did something that I probably shouldn't have done,
and it could have went the wrong way.
Real fast. What happens if they would have gotten in trouble and they would have turned me in? Like little things like that, because I didn't know it at the time, but accessory, you can be an accessory, you can know certain things, you can be a part of something, certain thing, and you're going to go to jail for it. And like that's a whole path that I'm glad, like I'm thankful I'm a Christian, and I feel like God is always watching me, Jesus protecting me. There's situations that I've been in my life where I was doing the wrong thing, but hey, I had somebody over here on my shoulder said, I'm going to protect you, what's going on right here, but we don't need to be doing this anymore. This is bad. This is not good. Don't do this anymore.
And so with your military family, there's no way for you not to have a patriot bone.
I'm telling you.
And so now this is your first year for the American Warriors Open that you're doing. And I'm so proud of you for what you're doing, because this is where I think God really does come and utilize what you've done. You've 9-time NFR qualifier. You've had an amazing career. You're one of the baddest healers of your era. And now you're able to take those skills and what you know, and now you're able to come back and start helping veterans. And I know you got a great vision for where you want to go with this. And man, I'm really proud of you where you're doing this roping. But tell me about this roping, what you're doing right now, and what your vision is in the future.
I tell you what, this roping was real big. Thank you, Shane Wolfert, for helping my vision come to life a little bit. Well, both of ours kind of come to life today, and in the future, like I said, we're hoping to have a little rodeo and a jackpot, and maybe have a full weekend of it, kind of do like you do, and try to have some top guys come over and rope with. I'm big on the pro-ams. I think they're awesome, especially.
So I always call mine a military first responder pro roping. The reason why I don't call them AMs is because I always tell everyone, well, you tell this guy that can kill you in 47 different ways with his hands an amateur. So I just call him just the military first responder pro roping, because I'm like, I ain't calling him an AM. I ain't doing it.
Did you see my buddy Tim Martin over here? He was at my clinic. I think he won the roping on the heel side today.
Heck yeah.
But he was bald. And he had just a long sleeve shirt on. He was roping in the rain.
And it was cold. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen. You can't see.
He was embracing the suck like a man.
Like a man. And I'm like, listen. I told my little boy, see that polar bear over there with man with human clothing on?
That's what they call a man.
That's
right
Tim right there. And he like I said, that guy is so cool. And to be around guys like that, Shane. These guys are really good guys. And they love to rope.
Changed a lot of my life. I have a lot of guys now that mentor me now in a lot of different things, and it's been cool because, I've got a brotherhood with the ropers, with you, with the healers, and some of the cowboys and stuff that I got to grow up, around and rodeo with. And then now through the military stuff that you're going to start realizing too, you start developing another brotherhood too with some of the baddest mother effers in the world. There's protection, and these guys got your six. Like when you do things for them, it's amazing how much they do things for you, and then it creates a brotherhood.
Yeah, I went to college over here, and I thought, I'm going to study. I want to teach. I wanted to be a teacher, school teacher. Man, I just that path didn't go. But I took some classes to try to, some psychology classes and stuff like that you got to, to be a teacher. But I translated that into my teaching when my roping clinics, and we had a little roping clinic yesterday, and I love teaching people how to rope. I kind of found a niche in it after Houston and stuff. I did clinics before, and I started doing a few one-on-ones around here, and man, I like helping people how to rope. And I got another police officer in town that works for the gang unit, Dusty Watts, and he's a really cool guy, and he was just beginning, and he was able to win saddles and buckles here, this last few years, and he really takes a liking to this roping. And I just feel like those guys, the stuff that they've had to see in their time, if they can get out here, for me it was a release to get out here to rope a little bit. I could take my mind off of whatever was going on in the real world out there and just be in my little sandbox for a little while. And I feel like the military guys, when they get out here and rope, it's almost like the same thing. They can take whatever shit that they've seen in their life and they can just enjoy it, and we can enjoy it out there together. And now when I'm roping, I used to be so intense, like I didn't take losing very good. I got really frustrated, but being around these guys and just helping people how to rope, I've changed my whole outlook on your attitude. If you
had a lot of them affect me that same way.
Yeah, if you just gotta, if you're around guys that love it and want to get better, you're gonna get better.
Yeah.
But you have to get around that kind of crowd, and it seems like every military guy that I'm around, and police officer, first responders, these people are, they think just a little bit. They think like me. I want to help people. I don't want to hurt people. I want to help people succeed. I want and all these people, they want the same thing. They want to, the military guys, they want to protect you. That's why they got into the military. And so to have that around them, I just feel like that kind of vibe, I need that in my life right now. It just keeps me grounded and keeps me happy. Nowadays, like I said, I stepped away from rodeo, and it got kind of frustrating there for a little while, like the last few years, and I was trying to grind it out. And, you've been there before too. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating to finish up 16th, 17th, 18th of the world. You're broke. Your rigs are, wore out, and now you got to start over again. And I've been trying to, build it back up. Arena, she's been supporting us and helped me with these clinics and stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's my future for this military roping, is we're gonna have a big clinic and try to get 10 headers and 15 headers, 15 healers, and make a big ropings from low numbers all the way to the open ropings, and then we're gonna have a little rodeo and get the rough stock guys involved, because military guys, they're a little extreme. they might not like team roping.
Some of these military guys, they really do fit in on that rough stock.
Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah, they do. And you're gonna see
because you got some of these SWAT guys, man. When they show up, man, they're ready to bust the door down.
Yeah.
And so they kind of have the same tendencies of what a bareback rider does before he nods his head. And to be able to constrain that into a team rope and run, the horses that I've seen, their eyes are just about to pop out of their head, almost like they're not quite wired for the team roping.
You just gotta breathe.
And that's where we've had that ranch rodeo, just to let some of those guys, man, they just need to go bust loose and wear the carbon out.
Yeah,
let them go attack something.
For sure. And man, I just love what they bring to our sport.
Yeah.
I just.
Well, I tell you another thing that I've learned about them too is, how much discipline they've taught me. There's so much discipline, there's so much sacrifice, and there's so much that they have kind of mentored me throughout this whole thing too, where they've, here I am trying to give back to them because, for you and me, we're doing a lot of the same thing. We're literally like, hey, let us show you some of the cool stuff we got to do while you were fighting for our freedom. And then in return, like I said, when these guys got your six, like there's so much they have to offer for so many communities, so many companies and stuff, because they bring so much amazing discipline and mental strength and code of honor to anybody that would want to hire them. And it's been inspiring for me. But one of the things I love about what you're doing as well is the fact that, in my opinion, both of us are truly trying to keep these guys alive in one perspective, because
yes, sir.
28 military guys and first responders kill themselves every day, for those of guys that don't know. And so when we're creating events like what I'm doing, what you're doing, and to me, that keeps them alive. That keeps them looking for something to look forward to, an experience, an appreciation that, for my opinion, our damn government ain't doing a good enough job doing. And so hell with it, we'll do it ourselves. And so, man, I'm really proud of what you're doing and where your event's going to go. And
thank you.
I appreciate that. And I know these guys truly appreciate that too. So I'll dang sure let you know, because I know I get to talk to quite a few of them, man. And when they heard what you're doing, there was a lot of appreciation. So good job.
Just to start. Like,
it's cool to see how God is using you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Like I said, he's been on right here on my shoulder the whole time, my whole life, and there's been times where I might have stepped the wrong way, but
you're on the good spot.
He was always there. He was always there.
God used a lot of other people too. He healed a lot of broken and a lot of guys that messed up. I think Peter wasn't always just the greatest guy either. So and I know I wasn't always the greatest guy either. So yeah, it's amazing how he's turned our lives around to do good.
He's had 12 disciples that were all different.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And like I think there's safety in numbers, like you talked about. These military guys, when you're friends with them, especially if you help them out with their roping, like you're buddies with them for life. You know what I mean? That's like,
for us, it's kind of cool because we get to see a certain brotherhood that those guys experience, and it's fun to be around for sure. Well, now you're doing clinics.
Yep.
So how do we follow you? How do we find you? We're interested in getting one of those clinics. How does everybody find you and follow you?
Facebook. I look me up on Facebook. I'm pretty sure it's Cesar De La Cruz on Facebook there. And
fan page on that one.
Fan page on that one. Then
man, when I looked you up too, man, you got a following. You got over 100,000 followers, man.
Yeah, throughout the years.
You had a spectacular career. Proud of you.
I didn't use it as good as I probably should have. My social media. I just like looking at memes and going through it, but posting things, and like for people that are fans of the game, they really, really appreciate seeing that kind of stuff. So I probably should have used it more, but I'm trying to do it now. I got a lady, Crystal Mead. She's a Canadian lady, and she knows the cow horse circle a little bit, so she takes really good pictures and knows how to present the social media the way, and kind of teaching me a little bit on that side of it. And Instagram, I'm on Cesar De La Cruz roping on there. And man, I got a website, ropewithcesar.com.
Oh, perfect.
And so you can find me.
Got a landing page where you can find your clinics.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm traveling quite a bit, and I'll post stuff on my Facebook, and if I'm going to be in your neighborhood, and I got a clinic in Louisiana. Shout out to the Rayburn family. They really help me out a lot. Twice a year I go over spring and fall, and there's some really good ropers coming out of there. And man, I've been all over the world roping, and it seems like I've been all over the world with these clinics. Like
it is. It's cool that we get to see a lot of stuff that we didn't get to see rodeo.
What's the fanciest place you've been to? I like Brazil and Hawaii. Those are my top two places I've got to go to.
I haven't got to go there, but I have. Last year I did go to Australia, so that got me out of the country, and so that was fascinating to see. A lot of the different culture over there, and Another thing too, like when I got home, like really appreciated like what opportunities we do have here in this country.
You're right.
Got to go to New York. I got to go back east and got to go see a lot of different places I'd never seen. And yeah, it's been great. And 'cause I still like traveling, believe it or not. I still enjoy the traveling part. I just don't want to be stuck in that rig rodeo anymore.
Well, it's like I can't leave the family for too many days in a row. Like if I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave for a weekend. I'm going to fly out Friday and I'm going to be back, Sunday.
My goal is to be back to where I'm taking Creed and Journey to school every day. And then, if I got to leave on a Friday and be back on a Sunday night or Monday and be back picking them up at school. So that's kind of my goals now.
My grandmother, she, like I said, I'm thankful for her because she kept a really good eye on me the whole time, like, in the high school years. But dropping your child off at school and picking them up, it's a lot of pride in that. It makes me feel good to do that.
When Creed, man, when I show up and he's just, Daddy, I love that. I want to be that. I want to make sure that I'm that way and be there. And then, like I say, it's fun lighting them up. But man, Cesar, I'm proud of you, proud of what you're doing. And man, you're a great American.
Real quick story. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. But quick story for people that didn't know. Charlie was one of the reasons why I decided at that time. I was about 17. I just maybe turned 18 years old. And I had an old beat up pickup. I drove up to the Steers and Beers roping.
Well, they're Tanner.
Yeah, Tanner Bryce's roping. And man, what a cool spot. Back then he had a tank full of beer and really good roping.
He had a heck of a party up there.
Yeah, and the coolest thing is that you and BJ Campbell were up there, and you guys were cool with me, and you guys talked to me, and we actually got to rope in the open roping up there, and I think we won third, some place in that deal. And before that, I worked for my stepdad, Larry, delivering packages for UPS for a month, for a solid month. And I worked really, really hard, and I got my check, and the government took a lot of it out, and I didn't make as much as I thought I was going to make. I took that money and I went up to the roping, and I think I tripled it, or I went way more than what I did it with at a cool spot. He's got the creek running down the arena there, and cool and you're one of my heroes. So I got to hang out with you guys at the same time, make some money. I'm like, this is where it's at. Like I said, whenever I graduated high school, it was on. After that, I left and went rodeoing and worked in some ranches in Idaho and Montana, but you were the start of it, dude. I just thank you for that. I don't know if you knew that about that. You might have forgot, but
no, I remember. It was because I remember watching you. I'm like, this dude's gonna do something, man.
I tried hard.
You did great.
I preached that. My grandfather told me that if you want to beat the best, you gotta work harder than those guys.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any young kid, man, you're getting a lot of life lessons getting talked about right here today, and none of it, everyone, to me, like, this is what's fun about these podcasts and why I enjoy them. Most everyone kind of has a little bit of the same fundamentals. You had to work hard, you had to be passionate, you had to grind, you had to get around people that are successful. But everyone has a different way of kind of how they got there in a lot of other different directions. And so it's cool to see, like, and hear about everyone's different paths. Because what my path wasn't the same as yours. But there's a lot of people that when I talk to about, like, the struggles that I had and how I got there, it relates to. But your story really does resonate with a lot of guys that are struggling where maybe their dad ain't around, or they're struggling, maybe they're trying to be a cowboy or a roper from a hard city and a hard environment and stuff. So
dream big.
Yeah.
If you want to,
you've done a good job of laying out a good outline for someone to be successful.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me on.
Match partner.
Like I said earlier, just if you're a kid that wants to rope or just get around these horses as much as possible. If you're in the city and you're like, I see a lot of people that watch Yellowstone. They want to be fans of this, and they got to be huge fans of this rodeo side of it. And thankful for that little show there, because I've got quite a few people wanting to learn how to rope. And so thank you for having me on here, Charlie.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it,
everything. And
good to have you on.
Young kids on there, just dream big.
You bet. All right.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.